Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. Welcome, one and all, to Monday Football Monday here on the SB Nation NFL Show. A reminder before we go any further that this show is brought to you by our friends at DraftKings. DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app today and use code SBNFL for a special offer when you sign up. That is code SBNFL only at DraftKings Sportsbook. It is Monday, October 23rd. 2023, which means we are here to recap all of the Sunday Week 7 action across the Football League of National. Make sure to subscribe to the SB Nation NFL Show wherever you get your podcasts. You get these every week. Leave a rating, write a review. Those things make us very happy. If you prefer to watch the production, you can on the SB Nation NFL YouTube channel. Do those things, por favor. The fantastic Rachel Prevet is on the ones and twos, as she always is. My name is RJ Ochoa, and I am joined, as I am every Monday, by the best writers from SBNation.com. If you guys tell our coworkers that I said that, I'll stand by it. I'll be very proud. JP Acosta, Mark Schofield. JP, who are you going to drag and tell them that I said you're better than?
Everybody. I'm gonna tweet it. I'll make sure everybody knows.
Okay, good. Mark, you are coming off of a rather busy Sunday afternoon. The United States Grand Prix came around and went, and Max Verstappen did his thing. And the New England Patriots are back. You also had some, family time going on, some recreation. I imagine you're pretty spent from a physical and emotional perspective.
It was a long Sunday, but an enjoyable Sunday, coaching baseball in the morning, then racing home to get the dual screen set up. You got the F1 race on one screen, you get the quad box on the other. And as you mentioned, the New England Patriots won. And can I do a babyface turn here on this? Because before we hit record, I was like, oh, no, this doesn't matter. This is pointless. This is just bad. But this was a tremendous victory. Patriots are back, right? I mean, that's what this means.
JP, I mean, these are literally the exact words that we heard like 45 seconds ago in real time. I guess we have to start.
Is a babyface turn possible? I don't know. I mean, if so, I just made one.
If it is, I want to take it.
Because in all transparency, before we hit record, I was saying, look, what are we doing here? This is going to mean another year of Mac Jones. It's going to mean Gardner Minshew as the backup. Like, they're going to talk themselves into a rut. And now who knows what's going to happen. But I don't know. Would you get a divisional win? Would you get a win against a team of the Buffalo Bills that, people still think is one of the better teams in the AFC? Even when you see Bill Belichick get the 300th win, it's a nice little story.
We might as well begin with this game, Mark. If you're going to do a babyface turn, allow me. I said here on Monday Football Monday last week, I said, Mark, the Patriots are going to get a win on Sunday against the Bills. And you guys both rolled your eyes at me. Now, I'll be straight up and honest with you. While I know that you both listen to every second of our Friday show here at TGI Football.
Every second.
Exactly. When we did our official picks, myself, BLG, and Steven Serta, who was not there, Rachel was producing that. She's the best. Remember that in about an hour, please, Rachel. I did take the Bills, like in a, have to lock my pick in sense. But I said a week ago, Mark, that this could happen. And it did. 29-25, the final score, maybe in the truest Hawkeye, don't give me hope sort of game for New England Patriots fans. But still, it has to feel incredible to knock down the most recent kings of the division.
Yeah, I mean, it's an impressive win. I think a couple of things. One, I was on ESPN in Rochester on Friday afternoon. I love going on with Danger Battaglia, especially during Patriots-Bills weeks. And the framing of their question of how New England could win this game was, we have seen the Bills play to their level of competition all season long. They go up against the Dolphins and have almost a flawless game. They go up against the Giants last week, and it comes down to the final snap. Like, their concern in Buffalo was, are we going to see them play to the level of the Patriots? And in a way, they did. JP talked about it in those SB Nation Slack, like early interception with Josh Allen, where it's like, okay, here's Josh Allen trying to solve a problem with his arm, like quintessential Josh Allen. You get the Patriots actually getting ahead 10-0 in a game, which, for a team like the way their offense is built right now, you can't get down 2 or 3 scores. Like, they don't have the ability to throw their way back into games. But when they can get up a score or two, that plays to what they want to be as an offense. It's not like Mac Jones was spreading the ball all over the place, had just 5 throws of 10 air yards or more, but hit on all 5 of those for 88 yards. That throw to Hunter Henry late in the game, Rex Ryan said it was perhaps one of the best throws he's ever seen him make. Like, this was a very good win for the New England Patriots. I don't know if we learned more about the Patriots or ultimately the Bills in this one, but it's still a very good win.
JP.
I think this says a lot about the Bills and where the Bills are when we're talking about at this point in the season. they don't have any depth on defense. And that's a really, really big issue. I think Daquan Jones and Ed Oliver both did not play against the Patriots. And you could tell up front, they were getting their butts whooped. And that's something like you don't expect against the Patriots team where the offensive line has struggled the entire season. Went to Ben Baldwin's side on The Athletic. The Patriots had a 48% success rate on all runs throughout this game. That's almost half the time their run players were going for a positive gain or a positive EPA. That's not good when it comes to, wanting to stop a team like the Patriots, wanting to stop anybody. Their entire defense is built upon, we're going to play with light boxes, we're going to dominate up front, and that way we can get into more of our different pressures and looks on third downs. They can't do that right now. That's because they don't have any depth, and the depth goes even past the front line. You're playing Kaiir Elam, who is clearly not ready yet. He was a healthy scratch going into the season, and now he's being thrown into the fire again. Offensively, they're just weird, man. They're just a weird offensive team. Like they truly do take the reflection of their quarterback and embody it every week. Like sometimes it's just a buzzsaw. Sometimes they look unstoppable, but they're so high variance. They are one of the most high variance teams in the NFL when it comes to good offensive performances and ones that are kind of like, man, you just hope to see more. You expect more from a Bills team that was a lot of people's trendy pick to win the Super Bowl this year.
I'm kind of sick of the Bills' love. I've been saying that for a long time because they do things like this. I mean, you're right, JP. Like there is an incredible level of variance here, almost on a week-to-week basis. And I don't mean to just kind of come in from like a 30,000-foot perspective here, but at some point, like you have to cut that crap out. Like we don't see that level of variance from the elite teams, and that's why like the Bills. To me, I know the Bengals have been a bit stutter stop, to begin this season. I still don't put them on that level. I don't put them on the Chiefs level. They are much closer to the Chargers than they are the Chiefs at this point. And like, cool, you guys can go to Arrowhead and win a regular season game because you can play up to the level of competition, but you have to do this week in and week out. And it felt like they got a gift at the end of this game, Mark, with the Kendrick Bourne, weird tip interception thing. And to their credit, they went and cashed in on that. But I mean, you can't. I know people are going to look at this and talk about the defensive depth like you just did, JP, but I mean, you can't go into the fourth quarter with 10 points. You just can't. That is a really embarrassing effort from the Bills. And something I said all off season long was they didn't have enough depth. They didn't do what did they add to their offense besides Dalton Kincaid? I mean, that was it. Like they thought like, oh, we'll be fine and we'll be good. And I mean, I just don't know. I don't know what their ceiling is at this point. Like, I feel like the best version of this nucleus is in the past at this point.
Well, I think it's also a lot of credit to Bill Belichick and the Pats defense for kind of switching up what they did against Josh Allen. Bill Belichick, we know, plays a lot of man coverage. That has been like the Patriots' MO. The problem is Josh Allen has destroyed the Patriots every time they played man coverage. They played a lot of zone yesterday. They forced Josh Allen to hold on to the ball, forced him to think guys were open that weren't, forced him into thinking. This is the entire Josh Allen experience. You want to force him to speed up his process. It's not just forcing him to hold on to the ball for a long time because Josh Allen wants to hold on to the ball for a long time. That's his game. You want to force him to speed up the process, force him to think, oh, no, there's a blitzer coming. I need to have that hardwired in my brain. And then he goes into cheese brain mode because everything's getting thrown at him at a very high rate. And that's how you get the interception to Jabril Peppers. It's just, I worry so much about this Bills offense because of how high variance they are. Sometimes they can't run the ball. So then that puts all the pressure back on Josh Allen, which has been the problem for the Bills since Josh Allen got good. You have not been able to run the ball. Your entire offense is built on Josh Allen finding Stephon Diggs. And Stephon Diggs is also the only receiver that is actually a credible threat in this offense. Dalton Kincaid is your wide receiver 2 right now, and he's tight end 2 at this point. Gabe Davis is – I tweeted that he's football J.R. Smith, and that's the best – that's the biggest compliment I can give him because he's not a legitimate wide receiver 2 option. So, they went into the season thinking like, hey, we can upgrade at right guard, which they did with Osiris Torrance, who's been fantastic. You can go get Dalton Kincaid, who has been fine. He hasn't seen a lot of targets, but he's been fine. But the problem is you're still stuck in the same place that you were last year and the year before that and the year before that. And that's going to ultimately limit how far you can go in the playoffs. Because we're not just talking about if the Bills team can make the playoffs. This is the Super Bowl window. The window is closing like as we speak for this team. You know, they have a lot of aging guys on that defense. Like Von Miller's 33 years old, and he's not getting any younger. Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer are both entering their 30s. Davius White is going to be coming off another Achilles injury. This team isn't getting any younger. And this is the year. This is not to say like the proverbial this is our year thing, but if there's a chance to compete this year, you have to do it because you might not get this chance again with that defense.
The floor is yours to drag them, Mark. This is your day. You earned this.
No, I mean, I'm not going to drag them, but I do think that we have given the Bills the benefit of the doubt for a long time. And as far as windows closed, I think the window for giving them the benefit of the doubt is now closed. Like when you are this high variance, when you can play, a great game against the Dolphins, when you, as you said, RJ, can go into Arrowhead and win, but then in back-to-back weeks, narrowly beat Tyrod Taylor and the Giants, and then let Mac Jones have his first ever game-winning drive and celebrate with whatever that gritty was that we saw in that end zone. Like, no, you've lost the benefit of the doubt. Now, still an extremely talented team, but at some point it's like, okay, like you've got to win games like this in convincing fashion. Like it's not enough to have a 5-point win against the Giants. Like you should have won that game going away. You should have won this game going away. And, the point about do they have enough around Diggs and Allen? I think like they were trying to get this sort of 12 personnel. They were trying to get the sort of big offense, 12 personnel look, and it's not working for them right now. Stephon Diggs still had 12 targets, but 6 catches. This is a game that is evidence of maybe you missed on that because what's Bill Belichick's, crutch? What does he do? Take away what you do best. Take away a guy like Stephon Diggs. You saw multiple coverage looks against him, multiple brackets against him. 12 targets, yes, the highest on the team, but only 6 receptions. Like they needed something else. They didn't have it. And their defense is so banged up. Mac Jones went down the field. Like the window that is closed in my mind is the window where they get the benefit of the doubt.
I think that's really fair. And I think that that's going to be a really popular take that stews over the next 3 weeks. I don't know if y'all have realized this. Their next 3 games are all in primetime. And so, those who are maybe slow, those who are maybe still applying the benefit of the doubt, they play the Buccaneers on Thursday Night Football. And then they head to Cincinnati on Sunday Night Football. And of course, they'll get up for that game because they, like the Bengals are who the Bills think they are. You know what I mean? Like the Bengals truly are that team that can hang and go toe to toe and be clutch. And then they play the Broncos on Monday Night Football. And I mean, but that would be the most Bills thing ever, right? Like to go to Cincinnati and like hang with them and then
win
come home.
and then lose to the Broncos at home.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like a trope and it sounds silly, but it's just kind of who they are at this point, JP.
Yeah.
We also cannot call what Mike Gesicki did the gritty. We can't call it that. That was more like a battle.
No, I mean, again, RG3 called it the unseasoned gritty. He called it last year. Like
that was a skedaddle. That looked like Fred Flintstone.
That was a roadrunner move.
By the way, Mark, I like the silver pants with those. I haven't been a fan of this new version of the Patriots uniforms, but the silver pants, gray pants, whatever you want to call them, with the navy top, it was nice. It felt a little bit more normal.
Yeah, it's a solid look. I mean, I'm still a Pat Patriot person. Like that's the look that I would love to see him go with full time at this point. Because I was just a huge fan of the 80s uniform NFL wide in general. But yeah, this is a solid, clean look for them.
Good for them. Okay, Rachel, remember that I took us in this direction next. The Baltimore Ravens, 38-6. You know what's kind of trending down, JP? Like game of the year vibes. Like anytime we try to label anything game of the year, it just is gross. Even Sunday Night Football, which obviously we'll get to, but the Ravens with a statement. Oh, here come the Lions. Here come whatever. A lot of people, JP, were hyping up the Lions as potentially the best team in the NFC entering this week. The Ravens handled them with force. It was 28-0 in the first quarter?
28-0. I think they scored on every drive.
It was it got up to 35-0 in the third quarter. I mean, this was a total and complete ass kicking. I mean, shout out to John Harbaugh. Lamar's not getting enough MVP love at this point.
Oh yeah, I picked them before the season to win MVP.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Go off. This is your soapbox.
This is what I expected from this Baltimore offense. They've been kind of going through some struggles with injury and with inconsistent plays stemming from like being in a new offensive scheme. But when everybody's healthy, like both tackles were on Sunday, this is what they can do. on the first touchdown against the Lions where Lamar kept it and ran to the end zone. Watch Ronnie Stanley. Ronnie Stanley absolutely obliterated the Lions DB, sent him back to Detroit. Lamar is so good. Like he doesn't get enough credit as to how he's grown as a pocket passer and the touch that he puts on every pass. It's like he just layers passes right over linebackers into the hands of his receivers. And the receivers were playing great. We knew the defense was phenomenal, but this was a ass kicking up front on both sides of the ball. The Ravens dominated up front on both lines, especially the offensive line, which had come in not very healthy, was kind of pushed around a little bit by the Titans in London, but they thoroughly dominated a team that is really good. I still think the Lions are a really good football team, but I think this says a lot about what we think the Ravens can be when it comes to factoring into the AFC playoff picture. If Lamar keeps playing like this, they are one of the best teams in the conference.
Mark?
It's in terms of people that aren't getting a ton of credit right now. Mike Macdonald, okay? What was fascinating about this game was, and I was talking about this a couple of weeks ago, Ben Johnson, he's going to write his ticket. He's going to get any job that he wants. He's done such a great job with this offense. Mike Macdonald was in his bag. The book on Jared Goff, if you think back to his days with the Rams, and even right now, it's make him think. Don't let him be a robot, paint by the numbers type of quarterback. You think about what the Patriots did to him in that Super Bowl where they would audible on defense after the helmet radio cut out, and Goff had to sort of figure things out on his own. Macdonald had so many different looks in this game where, lines would use motion. They'd have somebody trail it. So he's thinking it's man coverage. So then they drop in his zone and he's holding the ball like, wait a second, now what do I have to figure out? And they got home on those looks. They had one of their sacks was a ridiculous design where they dropped both defensive tackles into underneath coverage and came off the edges. A beautiful sim pressure look, which we're seeing so much of in the NFL this year. Macdonald, when we get to say the January hiring cycle, and it's okay, what offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators going to get out head coaching gigs? Remember this game because he had such a good game plan to go up against Jared Goff. Lamar's been fantastic. Everything JP said about the Ravens up front was absolutely on point. But I was so impressed with the game plan that Macdonald had against this Lions offense.
And I think the most important thing about what Mike Macdonald did was I think during the game, they said the Ravens lead the NFL in sacks. And you can't think of a true winner for them off
right
consistently. Jadeveon Clowney was signed in the middle of the season, and he's been one of the most consistent pressure guys. They signed Kyle Van Noy, and Van Noy was out here being real productive, and that's a testament to Mike Macdonald and what his defenses can do to opposing offenses. It's not only forcing you to think and to hold the ball longer, but it's also speeding up the process along the offensive line. It's forcing the offensive line to think, forcing them to adjust on the fly. The Arthur Maulet sack, where he just comes in free off the edge, nobody sees him. Just a perfect encapsulation of what happened to the Lions offense and a testament to Mike Macdonald and that Ravens defense.
It was, I don't know, are we concerned about the Lions at all? Because just to give you both perspective, I saw Cowboys fans, because that's how they are. Nobody's going to talk about the Lions this week. Nobody's going to whatever. I mean, but again, a lot of people were hyping them up and building them up as this top tier contender. And while there is, not a ton of shame, Mark, in losing to a contender, if I stick to kind of the Cowboys blueprint after the Cowboys lost to the 49ers, similar sort of fashion, it was doom and gloom. They're the worst team ever. I don't think that's fair to apply to the Lions, but this might have been a humbling of you're not quite on that level yet. You don't have to be in the middle of October, but you have some work to do still.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the takeaway. You have some work to do. I mean, as we framed that Cowboys-Niners game, I think JP sort of nailed it. It's still the Niners are just a bad matchup for the Cowboys at this point. We've seen that over the past couple of games between those two teams. And I think the takeaway from this one is the Lions are still good, but there are some things that they're probably going to have to address going forward if they want to be the team that gets to the Super Bowl out of the NFC. And I think part of it is, okay, you're going to see some pressures now going forward. It's a copycat league and all that. And so every team they play now is going to try to do the things like Mike Macdonald did. Are you going to have an answer for those moments? Is Jared Goff going to have an answer for those moments? That's the thing that I'm going to be watching going forward. I don't think it's this team is actually bad kind of thing. I don't think it's a look, they're frauds or anything like that. And say, okay, You had this game, learn from it, and be better going forward. If they do that, this will be sort of a blessing in disguise moment. If they don't, then okay, maybe we were wrong.
Oh, go ahead, JP.
I'm not too concerned about the Lions after this performance. Sometimes you just have a stinker. Sometimes you shoot a blank. You know, that's really what happened to the Lions. They went up against a bad matchup and they shot a blank. You know, it happens to every good team in the NFL. You know, there are going to be those games where you just don't have it. But like you said, Mark, I think the simulated pressures and what the Ravens defense showed the Lions offense is going to be something to keep looking forward to, keep looking out for throughout the rest of the season. The Lions defense will be fine because they don't have to play Lamar Jackson every week.
JP, let's go to PJ. PJ Walker, who you didn't believe in. I feel like this would be your thing, like your corner. I don't know why you don't jump in on this a little bit more. But the Cleveland Browns survived against the Indianapolis Colts. This was a really fun and weird and beautiful and messy game, JP. 39-38, the final score. Gardner Minshew, of course, starting the rest of the season for the Colts after the Anthony Richardson surgery became official. Deshaun Watson did start this game for the Browns. Did not look great. Kevin Stefanski said he wanted to protect him. That whole storyline is, worth exploring in and of itself. But the Browns defense is, despite allowing 38 points, an incredible monster that can pull off some miracles when they need to.
It's an incredible monster spearheaded by the defensive player of the year through 6 games. And Myles Garrett has been absurd to start this season. I think the Jim Schwartz defense has unlocked Myles Garrett to a completely different level. And you just look at the plays that he has. Like he had 2 sacks, forced 2 fumbles. One of them resulted in a touchdown, blocked a kick. So basically he took off multiple points for the Colts and added them on. He scored multiple times for the Browns. That is borderline. Like that's a defensive player of the year. That's a best defensive player in the NFL level performance by Myles Garrett. The Browns offense still remains the Browns offense. It's, when Deshaun was in the game, it's so weird to kind of think about where Deshaun Watson was in terms of just on the field. On the field, Deshaun Watson, when in his last year in Houston, he was considered one of the 10 best quarterbacks in the league. And now you cannot trust him to make a single good play. We have not seen a point blank fall off like this since maybe Carson Wentz. Like, this is getting Wentzian levels of uncomfortable for the Browns. And the problem is the Eagles didn't pay Carson Wentz $230 million fully guaranteed. Like, you're kind of stuck with this. And PJ Walker was a backup quarterback. He played like a backup quarterback. It's just a very weird game. You can't really feel comfortable about it if you're the Browns, but also a win is a win, and you're still in pace when it comes to fighting for the playoffs and fighting for position in the AFC North.
I mean, I think that Watson's clearly hurt. Like, he rotated cuff injury is like, as somebody, that has one right now, and it's my left arm and I can barely pick something up. I cannot imagine throwing an NFL football in an NFL game with a rotator cuff injury. But that being said, the fall off was evident before this game. I mean, earlier in the season, I wrote a piece about, what's wrong with Watson and can it be fixed? And his first throw in this game was a check down to the running back out of the backfield that he missed it by like 5 yards. Like, he just missed it by 5 yards. The interception he had, he is flushed to his right, basically on a full sprint with all his momentum taking him in the direction of this throw. And the ball hangs and lets the free safety, who is 5 yards away, albeit breaking on it, but 5 yards away when the ball is coming out. And he beats, and the receiver has to slow up, and he beats him to the ball. Like, Watson's clearly hurt. With this defense, though, you're still going to be able to win games, as we saw yesterday, because this defense is absurdly good. And Myles Garrett, not that he needed to be unlocked, but yeah, he's been unlocked, and it's crazy to watch some of the absurd things that he's able to do right now. So I think if you're Stefanski, like you said, at this point, you have to. He's your multi-million-dollar investment. With that defense, I think you have to kind of sit Watson down and let him get close to healthy and win games with PJ Walker, because with this defense, you can't.
Watson has $46 million guaranteed and a cap number just south of $64 million over each of the next 3 years.
So you might as well get him as healthy as you can because you're gonna have to ride with him at some point.
I mean, that's the thing that, like, I mean, Mark, you certainly know better than anybody, but like, I mean, are there like how like you? It's impossible to practically say that there are better days ahead for him at this point. Like, you know, I think if you're a Browns fan, you're doing your best to keep tunnel vision of like, let's just figure this out, like week by week. You know, the defense will do it, whatever, this and that, blah blah. But like the long-term future, the short-term, long-term 3-year window for this team is really, really tenuous because of this particular contract, and that's just talking about the football elements of it all. Like, I mean, you know, much has been rightfully said and discussed about how the Browns sold their soul to go down this path. I mean, this looks like one of the worst moves, again, just talking about the football of it all, that any front office has ever made in NFL history.
Yeah, I mean, James Data wrote at SBNation.com today, it's the worst trade in NFL history. And there's some competition for that, obviously. I mean, we can go down the litany of bad NFL trades, but JP's point was right, though. The quarterback we saw when he was last playing in Houston was a top 10 quarterback in the National Football League, a quarterback that every Monday morning would be at or near the top of my list of guys to watch because of how he was playing the position. The fall off from that quarterback to this quarterback, even before the rotator cuff injury came into focus, is dramatic and steep and, you know, Wentzy and Russell Wilson, like something we haven't seen in recent history. I think if you're a Browns fan, like you said, you're focusing on the defense and the week to week and the fact that, look, just get wins, just stack wins any way you can, get yourself into the playoffs, and maybe you can catch some magic. But long term, it's okay. Let's get this guy back to 100%, you know, with that shoulder, and then figure out an offense with him and what that could look like, whether it's entirely horizontal based, whether it's, you know, whatever you have to do to get this offense to be somewhat effective in the passing game. But right now, just stack it wins any way you can because the numbers are what they are and they aren't going away. And there are no easy answers in terms of getting out from under them.
JP, the Pittsburgh Steelers took down the Los Angeles Rams 24-17. Sunday was not a good day for NFL officials. I don't know if this was the worst and most flagrant issue that an official had, the Kenny Pickett spot and measurement. But I think it's certainly up there. This was a really weird game. This and by the way, our in-game parlay on Friday's show, we've never hit it before, and we came so close. I hit my leg, Steven hit his leg, and BLG took the under on Najee Harris rushing yards at 51.5. He finished with 53. So it was devastating. But you looked really dissatisfied when I brought this game up.
The Steelers play the same game every week. This is just, we talked about it a couple weeks ago. The Steelers are what the Patriots thought they were going to be. This is a Steelers / Patriots post Brady type of win. They look really bad for like 3.5 quarters. And then you turn the ball over. Then TJ Watt makes a big play or an interception like he does. And then the offense puts together one drive. And next thing you know, you're down. And then they can just tee off on you. It's just, I don't have faith in this Steelers team. They have been outgained in yardage every game this season, but somehow they are 4-2. It's a really big testament to the coaching and that defense to say, no matter what happens, we are still going to be in this game. You have to drive the stake through the heart of the Steelers in order to keep them down for an entire game. Because if you don't, they will zombie your ass and you're going to end up looking back and like, dang, we lost to that team. We lost to that Steelers team. The Rams looked relatively fine. Like they looked fine. Puka Nacua looked awesome. But the Steelers just keep doing this. They lie around. They just wait. They wait for you to make a mistake, and then they jump on you.
Yeah, I mean, first off, in my notes, I've got JP's quote right there from the other week. You know, the Steelers are who we thought the Patriots were. The Steelers are we're in the Halloween season. They're the Mike Myers of the NFL. They just wait for you to make a mistake. They walk slowly towards you. They wait for you to walk into the room with the chainsaws or walk into the room with a hot tub or walk into the room with all the knives. When you do something stupid, that's when they take advantage of it. Like, that's who they are. And my dear friend Kyle Krabs, who in the preseason was telling me, look, this is going to be a playoff team, said it's all about the schedule. Like, they're not good. but they'll find ways to win, and it's all about the schedule. They're 4-2, and they've got games against the Titans, the Packers, Arizona, New England, the Colts left on the schedule. With the games that they've got left, they just go 6-5. That gets them to 10-7. They're probably in the playoffs at that point. Acted like Mike Myers, like slowly walking their way into the postseason.
Slowly, of course, because the offense still cannot move the ball very well. Like nothing has changed about this Steelers team. My mind has not changed about what the Steelers are, but they just keep doing this. They keep every time on offense, it is either run for 3 yards in the cloud of dust, and then you get into 3rd and long, and it's a George Pickens back shoulder, which I mean it works. Like I wrote about him in Established to Fun. Like that's their most consistent offense at this point, and it's working. And then they just wait. They just sit there and like they take all the body blows, they take all the punches that you throw, and then as you get tired, it's like real steel. As soon as you get tired, they hit you with an uppercut, and now you're knocked out.
Are we ready to bail on the Rams? Like we were ready to kind of give them like they might be cute. I mean, I don't know. I go back and forth. Like no team kind of pulls me up and down as much as they do so far, relative to context.
They are who we kind of thought they were going to be. I mean, I didn't think they were going to be like super competitive, but the defense still like doesn't have a lot of depth. They don't have a lot of talent outside of Aaron Donald, who had a fantastic game on Sunday. Like he once again was Aaron Donald, but yeah, man, this team isn't that great. I think we got a little bit out over our skis a bit with how good Matt Stafford and the offense looked. And we forgot this offensive line is still playing. Like they're playing their right guard at left tackle because their original left tackle was not good, and they paid him $40 million after Andrew Whitworth retired. They are who we thought they were. They are the competitive rebuild team.
I think I would personally slightly disagree. I think they're better than we thought, but because they were better than we thought, like we thought they were going to be so bad, you know what I mean? They had like 45 rookies or whatever it was that we like buried them. So the fact that they had like a modicum of a pulse, we were like, oh, hey. And so to your point, I think we overcorrected, and now things are kind of starting to stabilize a little bit. Let me remind you both that, the way this show works is we generally start with the most exciting games of the day. And so we're getting to that kind of inflection point. And so we each do still hold our fast forwards. So that being said, I suppose we can talk about Tyson Bagent. I still don't fully know. I don't know if either one of you wants to discuss this. But he was really impressive in a contextual sense. Wow. Okay. Well, 21 of 29 for 162 yards and a touchdown in an NFL debut in a win is still cool. But one sentence, Mark, please.
Hey, look, seeing an undrafted Division II QB get a win gives hopes to all those D2 and D3 kids out there. I was one myself. Hey, it's fun to see, but yeah, we get to see this team on prime time this weekend. So we could save our full Tyson Bagent. I think it's Bagent because they're going with the like secret Bagent man headlines and stuff. So I think it's Bagent. We could save that full experience for next week.
JP.
I'm going to call him Tyson Chicken Nuggets because they're good. They're good. Like it feels fine the first time, but after you eat them like 8-9 times after that, you kind of feel like, dang, it's not that great. His average depth of target in this game was 2 yards.
Yeah.
Let's slow down a little bit.
He had what, like 3 or 4 throws over 10 yards downfield. Like
this is not good. And like Mark said, Sunday, that is the game they're going to show in the 7th layer of hell.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy for him. I saw on the Bears subreddit, they were like Bears fans were arguing, Bagent versus Fields. That has to be a very frustrating place to be as a Bears fan this week. So tough scene. Which one of you actually is credited with this fast forward? Because I didn't totally take it away.
I was shaking my head like
okay.
I didn't want to talk about this, so I'm taking that one.
Rachel gave it to you, JP. My last thing is this is a really tough scene for the Josh McDaniels Raiders. Like, I mean, like not that like we're short on those, but I think if we like ranked the 10 most embarrassing losses in the time that Josh McDaniels has been the Raiders head coach, I think he'd have at least half. You know what I mean? Like this one, the Baker loss last year to the Baker Rams, like tough scene. Okay, let's move on. The Atlanta Falcons outlasted the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Tampa, 16-13. Mark, I don't know if you want to fast forward. JP's already done.
I mean, there are so many other games worth fast forwarding. I think we got to talk about this one.
Well,
by extension.
I think the biggest takeaway from this game is like the Desmond Ridder fumble. Whether you think that that's a good rule or a bad rule. So I guess now is the time to have the discussion. I hate this rule. Like it's the worst rule in football in my mind. And a lot of people say, you know, what's your alternative solution? My solution: penalize them however many yards you want. Penalize them 25 yards. I don't care. Like, but the fact that you lose the ball. Now, I will say I have a bigger problem with it when players are reaching for the end zone or the pylon and it kind of falls out of their hands because they don't want to punish players for trying to do something super cool. This was not that. This was more of a traditional fumble, JP. But the rule still should be changed in my mind. But I guess congrats to the Falcons. Arthur Smith was really taking it on the internet during this game.
That's because like the whole Bijan thing was really weird.
This
you don't know if like they didn't say he was hurt. They said he wasn't on any of the injury reports throughout the week, and then he has like one touch throughout the entire game, and that was on the last drive of the game. It was really weird. The Falcons defense is legitimately good. Like it's a very good unit. I think the investments that they made on that side of the ball, Ryan Nielsen has done a really good job with that defense. Jesse Bates is playing amazing football. But look, man, the offense is going to be like, it is what it is at this point. Like you see every pass every cool Falcons highlight of a skill position player making a one-handed catch is behind their body, or they're making a one-handed catch. They have to go behind the back to do it because every pass is just off the mark. Like I don't know what to think about this team. The defense is good. The offense has talent, but how far are you really realistically going to get with Desmond Ridder at quarterback?
Well, you're in first place in the division, and you've got an extremely favorable schedule along the way. And given everything else we've seen in this division, this might be the NFC South division winning team. Desmond Ridder might be a division winning quarterback when we get to December. So, yeah, do with that what you will, kids. Baker, man. That interception he threw late, buddy, like situational awareness. Like you've got the check down open. It's 2nd and 8 at the plus 26 with 3:46 left or something like that. Like take the wide open check down and get yourself into 3rd and 2. Like try to thread the needle in that situation was just Baker being too much Baker at that point. But
that's the Baker MO. Too much dip on
the
chip.
Yeah, too much dip on the chip. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, even Desmond Ridder's sort of biggest throw of the game, the out route to Pitts, which was in a big throw at a big spot, he's still going like this to reach back to get it. I mean, it was a nice little anticipation read and throw, but still needed a big adjustment from Pitts to make that play.
Yeah, this is a real tough scene. I have long criticized the Broncos for their approach to the quarterback position. They got insanely lucky, obviously, with Peyton Manning being available in 2012, and they bailed him out of the whole Tebow thing. The Falcons were so fortunate that Matt Ryan was available the Michael Vick thing originally happened. But like, and I mean, whoa, like we're 2 years removed from the Matt Ryan experience, and so that's fine. But like, this is a really awful plan. Like, I mean, like how can you feel at all confident in the future? And what's weird is, like you both said, I think they're probably going to win this division. I mean, like, are you ready to write off anybody in the NFC South? Are either of you ready to say that? I mean, maybe the Panthers. Fine,
yeah, maybe the Panthers just because they're 0-6.
We can't throw out the Saints. We can't throw out the Bucs. No. We can't throw out the Falcons. That's crazy that like we can't throw them out.
Is that more because those teams are good, or because the rest of the division is bad?
It's because all three of them are equally bad. That's what I'm saying. But you can't disregard any of them. You know what I mean? At this point, because the other two are so bad. Whichever one you would argue to take out, the other two are so bad that it gives them life.
It's insane. This division just, I don't know what to make of it. I think they've each played each other at least once at this point, because I think the Buccaneers beat the Saints. I think the Falcons
and New Orleans have not played one another.
Atlanta and New Orleans haven't played yet, but I don't know what to make of the Falcons. I don't know what to make of this division. It's just very weird.
The Seattle Seahawks beat the Arizona Cardinals 20-10. Mark, I'll fast forward this.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, if you did it, I would have.
This was a really boring game, to be just kind of frank. Well, the most exciting thing, I guess my one sentence is Jackson Smith and Jigba scored, and that made me happy. So, JP.
Go ahead, JP.
Oh man, Jake Bobo is my guy. That's the guy that I was always like really hyped for, and to see him actually like get some run and get a really awesome touchdown. It was really, really good for the brand.
Yeah. I mean, look, I drafted Jake Bobo in my home fantasy league. I drafted him and Puka in the late rounds, and people were like, "Who are these two people?" So I was very, very happy to see him get a touchdown. But yeah, just not the most. The late afternoon window was just kind of disappointed, and this was part of that.
The New York Giants beat the Washington Commanders. Okay, that's our final fast forward. 14-7, the final score.
No, wait, Rachel still has a fast forward too.
That's right. Sorry, Rachel, my bad. So thank goodness, because there's another one that I think we're feeling that. One sentence on the Giants winning 14-7. Mark.
The New York Giants won a football game with their NFC East rivals, the Washington Commanders, by a final score of 14-7. But look, I've seen some should Daniel Jones be benched talk. I don't know if you can still bench your $160 million quarterback. I think, when he's healthy, he's going to play. But the offense has looked a little bit better with Taylor in the lineup, I'm just going to say.
Sam Howell needs to figure it the hell out with the sacks, man. You cannot hold on to the ball as long as he does and try and consistently like be Patrick Mahomes, even though you are not Patrick Mahomes. Something's got to give.
There was a moment just quickly in this game where when Brian Daboll settled for the field goal attempt, obviously didn't happen. Brian Daboll's got a little bit of coward in him. And I don't blame him for being
at the same time. Like, it's Sam Howell on the other side of the field.
And they were missing like 3 of their starting 5 offensive linemen. They weren't great to start with, but
I understand like he's trying to make chicken salad out of all this, but like, come on. I mean, they're just not an operation that I enjoy watching very much. Rachel, if you want to use your fast forward, I would offer this one as the opportunity, but it's your fast forward. The Denver Broncos beat the Green Bay Packers. Rachel, you're the GOAT. Thank you so much. 19-17, the final score. JP, one sentence, please.
Are the Packers quiet quitting?
Mark?
Coach LaFleur needs to protect Jordan Love from himself, because when this guy gets into second and long or third and long, he wants to solve every problem by chucking it downfield. I mean, that interception late, man, like, buddy, I know it's third and long at this point, but you get a chance, you take one of the shorter routes, because they basically ran sticks with a deep over. You take one of the shorter routes, you at least get yourself into the conversation for, hey, do we try a long field goal? It's the Denver Air. Maybe we can hit that and win this game, or do we just get ourselves 4th and 10? But to make that throw in that situation with the deep over into double coverage, like, you just can't do it. So, coach, protect your boy from himself, because if you look at his splits, second and long, third and long, they're not that those are high percentage downs to begin with, but it's even worse than you'd expect.
My sentence is that the Broncos have the weakest wins of anybody in the NFL. Like, how can you possibly feel good if you're a Broncos fan? I mean, I know there's like, you're looking for anything if you're a Broncos fan. This was a gross win. And if you're the Broncos, you're moving yourself out of Caleb Williams territory, which is probably the most devastating thing, as a result of all this. Okay. We have 2 games left. The Kansas City Chiefs defeated the Los Angeles Chargers 31-17. This got all the national tight end day, Taylor Swift, headlines that you could possibly imagine. But I wanted to petition something to all of you that I think we should make a thing here on Monday Football Monday. Now, a lot of teams do, or a lot of the NFL shows do some version of like, getting rid of a team. This team's out of playoff contention, blah, blah. We obviously have to have that, but I came up with a name. This is for teams that are cooked, but that are kind of like slowly cooking themselves as the season goes along. But again, in essence, if we put a team in this place, it means that they're cooked. I offer to put the Los Angeles Chargers in the crock pot. They are slowly cooking themselves. Like, this is not a serious team. I'm so done with them. There's a lot of fault to go around. You could put a lot on Brandon Staley. You could put a lot on Justin Herbert. You can put a lot on, this, that, and the other. I'm not saying that one person should escape it, but I want to put the Chargers in the crock pot. But I do think it should require a unanimous vote of approval. That's the way that the crock pot, should work here on Monday Football Monday.
I kind of want to put ourselves in the crock pot because we do this every year with the Chargers. We believe, we buy it. No, this is going to be the year. We should be in the crock pot alongside with it. We are Charlie Brown with the football with this franchise. Yeah, I'm all for it. Put them in the crock pot.
Yeah, it's already really hard to beat Patrick Mahomes when Patrick Mahomes is playing like he was yesterday and Travis Kelce was playing like he was yesterday. The Chargers are normally like historically a very good like Travis Kelce defending team because they have Derwin James. Derwin James was hampered by an ankle injury. They don't have a lot of guys left in that DB room that are actually healthy, which again, the story of the Chargers' entire franchise. Nobody's healthy, but the offense just completely cratering in the second half. You know, that's rough when you brought in Kellen Moore to make sure that didn't happen, and you paid Justin Herbert a lot of money, he's still a very good quarterback, but it's just this team never, ever, ever makes any sense. And you can't really gauge like what are the Chargers? What do they do well?
They have a great social media department. That's like the
their
highest.
Schedule release videos are fantastic.
Yeah. They are so like their inability to be legit is now annoying. Like it was just frustrating and devastating for a while, but it's actually annoying now. And so I'm kind of sick of them, you know, being a thing, which is why I wanted to put them in the crock pot. And I recognize how like takey this sounds, but you know, if you want to play these big games, like I'm willing to give the Bills that. Like, okay, you can go to Arrowhead, you like your stars can rise above and play big moments in those. Like that's of AFC hierarchy. The Chargers are way beneath the Bills, who we trashed a little while ago. But like, you have to have games where your superstars show up and you get the benefit of injuries and things like that, like you mentioned, JP. But like Pat Mahomes was amazing in this game. Travis Kelce was amazing in this game. Like, where's that game for the Chargers? Like, where's again? Like, if we just act like, you know, sports takey, where's the game where like everyone was out of their bag or in their bag, out of their minds to get the win that they needed? Like, I would challenge each of you. Like, what is that game?
Dolphins last year? Like, does that count?
But we didn't regard the Dolphins in that like high esteem at the time as we do now. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but I mean, the point is, even if that's the pick, that was last year.
right?
Like,
we have film of them playing that same Dolphins team this year.
Yeah. And how'd that go?
A funny stat that I just found that kind of encapsulates what the Chargers and Chiefs were yesterday. The Chargers' total offensive EPA per play from that entire game was 0.047. Patrick Mahomes' EPA per play was 0.59. You cannot win games when Patrick Mahomes is playing like that. Like it's just really hard, and they made it even harder on themselves.
Rachel, we need your vote on if we can put the Chargers in the crock pot, just so that it is a unanimous thing. But yeah, like this team is so boring. I'm sick of like acting like they're anywhere. Oh, Rachel has approved it. Okay, the Chargers are the first team, the inaugural team in the crock pot. Are there any other teams?
Our graphics department to get out, work something up.
Right. Are there any other teams that we want to consider putting in the crock pot now that we're here? And to be clear, you have to be like a contending kind of ish team. Like we're not putting the Panthers in here or the Broncos in here. Like, you know, you got to have a certain standing to be crock pot eligible.
Saints?
I'm not willing to put them in. They could win the division. We just talked about that. Like,
yeah,
you know?
Based on how we've talked about them today.
Yeah, I mean, based on what we saw on social media weekend.
It might be I'm not saying they're full crock pot yet, but we're prepping the Bills.
Yeah, I mean, look, people are chopping the vegetables. They've got the crock pot. It's out on the counter. Like they haven't plugged it in yet, but it's out.
Yeah, well, be careful when you plug it in. There's a whole network television show that was centered around a crockpot accident in what was it called? Not the
This
Last
Is
of
Us.
Us. This Is Us. Thank you.
Yeah,
that was big old plot in that show.
JP just looks so confused right now. Like, what are we talking about?
It was one of those shows, JP, that you watch with like your family, and everybody cries and everybody gets into it. So you'll get there as you age through life. Okay, so the Chargers are in the crock pot. We'll get some sort of graphic on this because I mean, to be frank, we need it. But okay, last game, we talked about the Miami Dolphins. This had game of the year potential. It was kind of exciting in a boring way. I don't know. Maybe I was keeping tabs on the Houston Astros at the same time, so I wasn't 100% invested. But it was kind of fun, JP, until it wasn't. My most annoying take out of this is now people are talking about the tush push again. Like, let it be. Like, I'm so sick of talking about this. I have no problem with it. I'm just sick of it being a talking point. 31-17, the final score is the Eagles improved to 6-1.
So real quick about the tush push. If you want to stop the tush push, lift bigger weights.
Yep.
You don't talk to me about banning that play when you're not strong enough to stop the play. Lift bigger weights, squat more, deadlift more, get in the gym, eat a sandwich sometimes. But really, it just comes down like the Eagles didn't play that great, but still scored 31 points.
That's their thing, man. That's like their whole thing at this point.
Like, I think they're still a very, very good team. And the reason why is because their floor is 31 points. Like, they have an offensive and defensive line that can raise the floor so high to the point where the skill positions really don't have to play that great. The defensive backs for the Eagles really didn't have the best game, but their defensive line just dominates everybody. They have depth up and down the front. And then we know about the offensive line. It's the best position. It's the best single position group in all of football, like non-quarterback. It's the best non-quarterback room in football. They can single-handedly flip games and change games. They can sit on opposing teams and just grind out wins. And, Jalen Hurts looked a little hurt, no pun intended, near the end of the game. I think they said he had a brace on his left leg.
Put it on for the second half, yeah.
But he put together a gritty performance at the end. A.J. Brown is once again, phenomenal. He's so strong at the catch point and after the catch. It's really tough to defend him. But I wouldn't be too alarmed if I were a Dolphins fan, mainly because you were playing without most of your starting offensive line. And when you're going up against that defensive group, if you don't have your offensive line fully healthy, it's not a good, successful formula. But this is more about the Eagles being like, hey, we didn't play that great, but we still scored 31 points and had an efficient game on offense.
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, Miami injury is certainly something that contributed last night. I know a lot of Dolphins fans were really frustrated with some of the calls that did or did not go against them. It seemed like, officiating wasn't in their favor last night. But with the injuries that they had up front on Miami, that Eagles front is something different.
Terrifying.
I mean, just absolutely terrified. And if we start thinking, okay, down the road, right, Browns Niners last week, what was one of the takeaways? Well, maybe if you can dominate up front with 4, you've got a shot at slowing down this Niners offense. Well, the Eagles can do that. Hassan Reddick was phenomenal in this game. Especially in the first half when the Dolphins couldn't get anything going on the ground. It was mostly because Reddick was in the backfield by the time Tua was handing the ball off. Jordan Davis, they had a stop on the goal line early in this game. Takes on the double team. Guard can't climb to the second level. Morrow comes over the top and you get a stop for a loss of 1. That Eagles front is terrifying. And if you start thinking about the Niners and a potential NFC Championship game rematch, JP said it last week. Look, Philadelphia's sort of ace in the hole is what they can do in the trenches, certainly on offense, the defense as well.
I think my takeaway from the Eagles is that this is a weird take, I understand. They're a more impressive 6-1 team through 7 weeks this year than they were a 7-0 team through 7 weeks last year. Because they were just destroying, they were obliterating opponents last year. I mean, that doesn't happen in the NFL, right? I think it's when we look at the end of the universe or time or the world, we'll look at the 2022 Eagles as this extreme outlier of everything going right for you until the very, very, very end. Versus this team, JP, you said it. I feel like the eye test is they kind of played poorly. You know what I mean? But they won by 14 points. You know what I mean? How is that possible? And that's every week for them. And every week they have one drive, one moment where it's okay, let's just go kick their asses right here and get the win and get out of town. And so it's if you can get to 6-1 while you're playing debatably poor football and your quarterback is turning the ball over like crazy, you know what I mean? That is the hallmark of an elite team. And that's what frustrates me the most as a Cowboys fan is that it just feels like nobody is capable of capitalizing on them playing poor football.
But it feels like with this, the offense especially, the reason they're not as good as they were last year, I think they're still trying to figure out what they want to be. Especially on third downs, they don't have a lot of answers for third down outside of QB draw, and it gets boring. Everybody knows what you're going to do. The first QB draw that was in the red zone on third down, the Dolphins baited them into checking into a QB draw. They lined up in quarters where it looked like they were having a light box. The Eagles checked in the QB draw, and then they sent a cover 0. And the Eagles end up having to kick a field goal. Fans started booing. That is just what the Eagles are right now. And like we said, doesn't matter right now because they're 6-1. And I think the question is, we gave them the benefit of the doubt of being like, oh, it's still early. They're still figuring it out. At what point do we kind of go like, hey, maybe this is just the Eagles this year? And how much time do we give them? How much grace have they been given? Because they still are a really good team. I think we should give them a lot of the benefit of the doubt. But, eventually those problems, especially offensively, Jalen Hurts has not looked as good. I think he's holding on to the ball for a long time, trying to make something happen when he can just take the check down or take a quicker throw. It's been really weird, inconsistent offensively. But again, with that offensive line and that run game, you can be inconsistent and score 31 points. You can be inconsistent on offense and still be 6-1.
Mark, the chatter around the Dolphins not being able to beat elite teams is going to grow after this, having gotten embarrassed by the Bills and then losing this game. And again, it was kind of close, but not really. And their offense was mitigated, which again suggests that you play elite defenses or get elite defensive performances. You're not going to be able to win that. And so the Dolphins are kind of maybe the Lions of the AFC. Everybody wants them to be this, and they've shown these flashes and moments, but the way the Lions lost in Baltimore kind of humbled that take a little bit. You're going to lose games in the NFL, and it happens, and I think we're all still really high on Miami, but this was a bummer of a game from the Dolphins.
Yeah, it was a bummer of a game from the Dolphins. And I think, look, there were sort of things to the context of the injuries, the context of the play calls and things like that. And it seems like, Ramsey's trended back, so that will certainly help. But I remember this conversation. I had to pull up my notes from last week's show, right? The teams that they had beaten had a combined record after last week of 5-23. We talked about is it just you're playing who you're playing? And yes, you beat some of those teams where you hunt 70 on them. But here we get a situation where they're playing a good football team and they come up short. And so, again, I don't think it's time to panic on the Dolphins or anything like that. When you have the ability to just, in the blink of an eye, in a blink of an eye, you see Tyreek Hill get open 40 yards downfield. You can put up points. But I think the bigger concern is going to be when you see these good defensive fronts, when you get into sort of December football, January football, are you going to have nights like this where you can't get anything going on the ground when you might need to, and you don't have the conditions or the elements to be able to hit on some of those quick plays downfield? And so I think it's more of a, what are we going to see for this team in December and January more than anything else?
Okay, one sentence quickly on Monday Night Football. San Francisco 49ers at Minnesota Vikings. Mark.
Kirk Cousins against the San Francisco 49ers defense is going to be a lot of fun to watch.
JP.
Very, very intrigued by what Brian Flores pulls out of his hat for the Vikings defense against this Niners offense. They've very quietly been a good defensive unit this year.
I would love so much if the Vikings won this game, but I'm in no way able or willing to predict that. Rachel, if you could join us, please, and offer your thoughts on the day, your thoughts on the crock pot in general, if you like it. I know you voted the Chargers in. Anything else you want? And, of course, who won the MFL MVP?
I love the idea. So I'll be looking forward to this each and every week. And I also love what Mark said, how it was not really just more so about the team. He was talking about with the Chargers, I think, how you guys people who were optimistic going into the season should be in the crock pot. So I thought that was really strong. One of my takeaways from the week, though, was just Davante Adams. I would be very frustrated if I was him. The October 31st trade deadline is coming up. And so, yeah, we could potentially be seeing a trade there. He only finished with 57 receiving yards. And so that's just embarrassing. I really also loved Mark's point. I think you were on a roll today, Mark. I think this was definitely probably one of your really strongest shows. I liked your point about the Ravens defensive coordinator, how he's pretty much in his bag. He's not getting enough credit. JP, I really liked your point about the Bills and how the loss more so says stuff about the Bills in their defense and their lack of depth. And then Mark, I also really liked your point on the Steelers being the Mike Myers of the NFL. I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, and like I said, RJ, I thought your idea moving forward about the crock pot, I'm here for it. So we definitely got to get a graphic going. But today I'm going to give it to Mark. I think you did a phenomenal job.
Look at you, Mark. Patriots, F1,
Yeah.
baseball.
Yeah, it was a fun weekend. It was a fantastic weekend, but we were back to work. Grinding our way through it because look, we're gonna have to have this Bears Chargers game broken down from every angle over the next 7 days. Like I want JP doing deep dives on Tyson Bagent and what the X's and O's look like. I'm gonna have to dial some stuff up on what's going right, what's going wrong for Kellen Moore. I mean, let's do this. We've had this weird game of the year jinx going forward. Let's call this the worst game of the year and see if we can spin this into something magical on Sunday night.
Okay,
All right.
I'm down.
And one last thing. We cannot let you off the hook, RJ. The Cars take that you dropped on the timeline in the middle of Monday Night Football. We can't let this go ignored.
I know that JP is a huge Cars fan, and so the take was that I told you guys that I watched it. I mean, it was kind of like I felt myself like wanting to like it because I wanted to be like culturally cool because a lot of people like it, and it just wasn't there for me. Like it was kind of boring. I didn't enjoy, the like unsettlement of the movie. It was wholesome, fine. Like it was cool when they set up all the lights in the town, but then Lightning McQueen had to leave. Like I can probably name 10 Owen Wilson films I like better. I mean, like this man
saw John Hudson drifting around Willie's Butte and was not moved. That's an absurd take.
I mean, again, and you both, all of you actually were like, oh, the sequels are terrible. So like, I have no incentive to like further my knowledge of the Cars universe.
Cars 3 is
Cars
very
2 is bad.
Yeah.
If you just pretend Cars 3 is Cars 2, then it makes more sense.
Cars 2 and Rocky 5 just never happened.
I wanted to say one last thing on this. So Kay Adams put my tweet on blast, which was nice of her. But her defense of this was, there's not a like the line for the Cars ride is not the longest by accident. And my take in response to that take is the ride can be amazing. That has nothing to do with the movie itself. You know what I mean? Like the ride can be incredible and have an offered like no indication at how great the movie is. And plus, how could it not be a great ride? It's Cars. Like, of course, it's going to be an awesome ride.
It's a race car. Like that. Yeah. That's the entire thing. It's a race car movie. It's super cool. It's an incredibly cool movie. I'm just saying, you heard the opening notes to Real Gone by Sheryl Crow and just were not moved. That's insane. Life is a Highway. Just
fantastic scene. Life is a Highway.
Life's a Highway. It's wild.
I mean, again, I would put all of the Toy Stories. I would put WALL-E, shout out to JP, ahead of it. I would put Frozen ahead of it. I would put Wreck-It Ralph ahead of it. Those aren't even Pixar films.
No.
I would put A Bug's Life, even though Ray Shell already handed out MF MVP. I would put, I wouldn't put Moana ahead of it if that makes you feel better.
What? That's one movie that I'm okay with being ahead of it.
Yeah.
I would put both. I didn't even like Monsters University. I'd put both Monsters Inc. ahead of it. I would put. I would put both The Incredibles ahead of it. Like it was fine. God. I mean, like
this is the most washed take I've ever heard. We talked about lawn mowing in the Slack a few days ago,
which is very important, by the way. You get a good lawn maintenance; it's critical.
Look, these are all of the Pixar movies. I mean. I've actually never seen Ratatouille, but I hear that ride is amazing as well.
Watch Ratatouille.
Oh my goodness!
Look, my son will be 2 in a month, and so the things that the plot holes I'm missing are gonna get checked off. You know what I mean? So it will happen. I would put Toy Story 4 ahead of Cars, and that's because it was awful. I would not put Soul. Didn't really, that's kind of whatever.
That's a good one.
Soul is a good one.
It was okay, but I wouldn't. I enjoyed Cars more. If that makes you feel better. I mean, it's much closer to the bottom of the spectrum than the top. Cars for me. Okay. But
we had to address it. I mean, we couldn't let that go.
Yeah, it was only right.
4 is not that great. Like
I know, but because it is still like part of the Toy Story pantheon, it's better than Cars. I mean,
make it better than Cars just in the Toy Story franchise.
What is the plot of Cars 2? Is that the like international?
Vader's a super spy. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the plot of Cars 3? I guess.
Lightning McQueen is kind of losing his edge. He's now the old vet, and now he has to try and get his swagger back.
Mhm.
It's a really good movie.
It is.
It's Washed King, Lightning McQueen.
Yep.
I put cars in the crock pot. Let's get out of here.
No, take it.